am John Kaiser in Toronto, March 3rd, 2019, at the Metals Investor Forum. I am here with Rockridge Resources and Jordan Trimble. Jordan, welcome to Toronto.
Thanks for having me.
Jordan, in your presentation, you went into geological detail about the Knife Lake project, the possibility of a fold that needs to be explored, bulk up the tonnage, convert the whole thing to 43-101. But what also caught my attention was the larger land position surrounding it, and the old historical geophysical surveys which showed there were some easy targets which had holes poked into them and nothing came from them, but there were some subtle features out there which you believe that with revisiting with newer geophysical technology, you'll be able to upgrade these to drill targets. Can you elaborate on how you're going to do this and when it's all going to unfold?
Sure. So it'll actually happen this year. Our first regional program is going to take place this summer after the drill program, after we come out with a 43-101 resource estimate. So that's all happening within the next 6 to 12 months. But that's really, I think, one of the most exciting parts of the project, right? We were happy to buy 300 pounds of copper equivalent near surface in the number 3 mining jurisdiction in Saskatchewan. It's in the Flin Flon Snowbelt district, so you have a nice backbone, if you will, there. But what we're really looking forward to is the potential to find more deposits in the area. As we talked about, it's a remobilized VMS deposit, so it's come from a primary source that has not yet been found. And again, we talked about the history of the project. Is quite unique in that the exploration programs carried out decades ago were very much just focused in at the deposit, and as a VMS system, that's not necessarily the best way of proving up the broader area. You want to go and you want to look for these satellite deposits. You want to find the source, and you want to find the clusters, and really there wasn't a whole lot of meaningful exploration done to do that. And the last serious exploration program that was carried out was in 2001. So no modern geophysics, no modern groundwork, and very limited regional drilling. And there were actually some regional drill holes decades ago that did have mineralization in them that tested shallow conductors. But a perfect one of the things we're going to go do is some deeper geophysics, right? So most of the geophysics done in the 80s and 90s, you're only looking 100, maybe 200 meters. Well, we can look a little bit deeper now with modern geophysics. The MAG survey, we have the regional MAG. It's quite coarse. We can now go in there and fly a drone and get a much more detailed MAG geophysical survey done. And if you look at where the deposit is, it has quite a distinct MAG signature along with the conductors that are there. So geophysics is one thing. Understanding the metal ratios, right? So going back in there, a new look at the geochemistry and then using that to vector in on new deposits in the area. So with 85,000 hectares and really just having scratched the surface at this deposit, there's a lot of room to move, and there hasn't been a lot of work done in the past. So it's relatively untouched, and we think we can go in there and find a lot more.
Now, in Saskatchewan, the First Nations are sometimes very cooperative, sometimes not cooperative. What is the First Nations situation in the Knife Lake area, and what have you done to make sure that your plans are able to go forward?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. My team, my head geologist, Rick Kazmersky, who lives in Saskatoon, he's worked on mineral projects for decades. As you know, we work very closely with Terralogic, which is a sub of Eagle Plains. We have a technical services agreement with Terralogic, Chuck Downey in particular, who's been very active in community and First Nations consultation. So it's good. Saskatchewan's well known, actually, in Canada for having very good relations between mining companies and First Nations. One of the largest employers in the province are the mining companies, in particular Cameco and Orano up in the north with uranium. So no, it's good, and it's something that we will continue to build going forward, and with success, we'll build a mutually beneficial relationship.
Now, in your talk, you mentioned that this project actually had a mining lease on it, and I understand that it wasn't due to expire until 2024. and but it became open because of some accounting clerical error that some paperwork was not filed. And the Eagle Plains Group, they're very good at all these land situations. They specialize in knowing the geology, everything that's interesting, and they are aces at staking when it comes open in the Mars system. And your group has a relationship through Aben with Eagle Plains in the past. In fact, they farmed into the Chico project. But you've also said this is just the beginning. You plan to acquire other polymetallic prospects with copper as a dominant metal, sort of these existing systems. I love the idea of acquiring these dormant old systems and bringing all modern new geology thinking and geophysics and so on to bear. But you were fortunate in getting this one. What's your strategy going forward of sourcing and acquiring other similar type of projects to build this portfolio?
Yeah, so no, we were quite lucky, and hence why we moved when we did to acquire this project. I believe it was one of the only times, if not the only time in Saskatchewan, that a mining lease was let to lapse prematurely. It was, again, new management had come into the older company and it just slipped through the cracks. So we were very fortunate to get a deal done to acquire this, and again, like I said, we have great plans to go out there and explore the project and find more. But going forward, our core strategy when we started this company just over a year ago, and we did the IPO, and again, we just announced this initial project, Knife Lake, just a few months ago. But our core strategy is going into in brownfields jurisdictions, in prolific mining jurisdictions like Flin Flon, right? Going in there with a new look at the exploration, and in particular, you want to find projects that have had a lot of historical work, but not necessarily within the last 15 years, right? So again, we can go in there with modern techniques, with modern methods, and go in and find what was probably otherwise not found. We know there's going to be more discoveries made. In fact, Hudbay just announced a new discovery right beside one of the past producing mines, right? So there's still a lot of upside and discovery potential, and we're just going in there with this new look and new technique. So going forward, that will continue to be the strategy. We're already looking at a few projects, and we just announced on Thursday a new director that's come on, Joe Gallucci, who was actually led the mining investment banking team at 8 Capital for a number of years. He was a principal of the firm. He was a research analyst before that at GMP and several other firms, and he's raised over $1 billion for Canadian-based metal companies and mining companies through his career. He knows this area very, very well. So we're working as a team to go out there and source other hidden gems in this area.
Now, Bay Street has kind of lost interest in the resource sector. Cannabis became the place where they steered all the money. In my view, the cannabis bubble has reached a stage where only the finalists are still participating in the cascade of or in the ongoing incoming capital, but there's lots of capital being generated. If Joe Gallucci was part of this whole Bay Street world and has stepped out to become part of your company, what's going to be his hook back into a culture where he's now on the company side rather than on the investment banker side? How is he going to make that work for you in a context where Bay Street is not as enthusiastic about these sort of optionality type plays and even discovery exploration as it was in the past 15 years?
As far as the mining and mineral exploration industry goes, I'm a young person in the industry. I've been invested in cannabis companies, and a lot of people done very well in the industry. And look, it's an industry that's here to stay, but I think you nail it on the head. The easy and hot money is no longer there, right? So you now have the larger cannabis companies. You will have new cannabis companies come to market, but I think the euphoria will start to wane, right? And it'll be like any other industry out there. The mining industry, and what keeps me passionate about the mining industry, is it is an industry we're always going to need. And that was one of the reasons that I was so interested in starting a copper company and building a team around me to help run it. Joe being the most recent addition to the board, but we have Ron Nedolitsky, who's a Canadian Mining Hall of Famer, who's come on as an advisor, a large shareholder, and I have a team around me that's running it with me. It's an industry that no matter what the global macro trends of the day are, we need more materials. And one that is prominent right now, has been discussed at this conference and many other conferences, is the electrification that's happening globally right now. That is something, whether it's electric vehicles, whether it's clean energy, even the blockchain crypto craze that we saw over a year ago, it needed a lot of electricity. So there's a common denominator here, and that's electrification. Well, electrification requires copper. Right? So here is a metal that we have to mine. It's mining of copper. It's been around for many thousands of years, and it will be around for many thousands of years. And so no matter what's happening, you get these, not necessarily flash in the pans, but you get these new trends that are developing. We need more electricity. So there's that common denominator. So I'm a true believer that no matter what is exciting at that point in time, this is something that's here to stay. And you look at copper in particular, look at the supply-demand fundamentals. You have a 5,000 or 5 million ton deficit that's looming in the next 5 to 6 years. You have a demand side that continues to grow with this electrification narrative. But what intrigued me about a couple of years ago looking at this was the supply side and the underinvestment in exploration, development, and production capacity. There have not been any real meaningful, high-grade, large discoveries of new deposits in good jurisdictions. So that's one of the things our team brings to the table. That is our bread and butter. That's our expertise. We go out, we find these new discoveries, make these new discoveries, we delineate resources, and then ultimately we're looking to sell to a larger company that would go in and develop the mine.
Thank you, Jordan.